They call him robotic, emotionless, a lizard in human skin. It started as a meme, a viral joke about his awkward blinking, his glassy stare, the way he guzzled water like a malfunctioning android during a Senate hearing. But as the years passed, the joke morphed into something darker, because the more power he gained, the less human he seemed. Mark Zuckerberg isn't just a billionaire. He's the third richest man alive in 2025, worth a staggering $267 billion. That's not just tech titan wealth. That's planet-altering power. He doesn't run a company. He runs reality itself. Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. And now Meta, the multi-tentacled beast controlling how over 3 billion humans communicate, share, think. He doesn't just own the platforms, he programs the conversation. And yet, behind the $300 million real estate empire, the secret tunnels in Hawaii, the mega yacht called Launchpad, and the obsession with artificial intelligence that rivals sci-fi villains, lurks one chilling question. Is Mark Zuckerberg even trying to act human anymore? In 2025, he unveiled a new look. Longer hair, chunky chains, a techno-futurist dad bod trying to cosplay as a human update. But instead of humanizing him, it horrified the internet. Because when an alien tries to blend in, it only makes its inhumanity more obvious. The memes exploded again. Alien, android, reptile, puppet of the lizard elite. Conspiracy or satire, it didn't matter, because the real facts were stranger than fiction. This is not the story of a nerd who built a website. This is the story of how a Harvard dropout became a data emperor, amassing riches, land, surveillance powers, and global influence beyond any president or prime minister. And how, beneath the hoodie and humble smile, he became something unrecognizable, something unstoppable, something other. In 2009, Mark Zuckerberg was worth just $2 billion. By 2025, $267 billion. That's a 13% wealth explosion in under 2 decades. How does one man hoard billions while preaching change? How does he buy 2,300 acres of pristine Hawaiian paradise, build underground bunkers, expand by 1,000 more acres, and still claim to care about community? How does he warn about climate collapse while sailing a 287-foot diesel-powered mega yacht through the Pacific? How does he preach freedom of speech while selling our private messages to advertisers, or ending fact-checking just weeks before being sued for $8 billion over data misuse? The answers aren't easy, because Zuckerberg is not just a man, he is an ecosystem, a ruler of an invisible empire made of screens, servers, and secrets. And as 2025 unfolds, it becomes clear he's not content with Earth. He wants the future itself. Welcome to the richest alien on Earth. This is just the beginning. Mark Zuckerberg was never like the others. While most college freshmen were fumbling through keg parties and lecture halls, he was building a digital mirror of the human race. Harvard, 2004. A dorm room, a hoodie, and a crude little site called the Facebook, a way to rate classmates' faces. Petty, juvenile, addictive. But beneath the surface was something else, something colder. Zuckerberg wasn't just coding a website, he was beginning a lifelong obsession. Mapping, monetizing, and modifying human behavior. He dropped out of Harvard, not because he failed, but because he saw something bigger. Not a product, not a business, a system. Facebook grew. So did his control. In less than 5 years, he had data on hundreds of millions of people. Birthdays, faces, thoughts, where you went, who you dated, what made you mad. It wasn't just social networking, it was behavioral surveillance at a planetary scale. And no one, not Congress, not courts, could stop him. Zuckerberg didn't just ride the wave of the internet, he engineered the ripples, bought out the competition, Instagram acquired, WhatsApp absorbed. He created a walled empire so vast that by 2020, it was easier to delete your identity than delete your account. And then came the shift, from data hoarder to reality shaper. He rebranded everything, Meta, because Facebook wasn't enough. He wanted to own the next dimension. Enter the metaverse, an all-encompassing digital world where avatars replaced faces and your movements, purchases, eye tracking, even thoughts could be harvested. People mocked him, called it creepy, said no one wanted cartoon meetings in VR headsets. But while they laughed, he bought up $116 million in Hawaiian land just as Meta shares rebounded. He didn't just build a digital world, he profited from both realities. By 2022, he had sold Meta stock at a 300% gain, perfectly timed. While others lost fortunes, he walked away richer than ever. And with that wealth, he did what the alien memes could only dream of. He vanished behind private security forces on 2,300 acres of locked-down Hawaiian jungle. Built tree houses, underground tunnels, rumored doomsday bunkers. Locals protested. He didn't care, because Mark Zuckerberg wasn't just leaving society. He was preparing to replace it. By 2025, he wasn't just a CEO, he was a sovereign. Land, wealth, influence, and soon, artificial intelligence. But more on that later. Because to understand the monster he became, you have to understand the face he wears. The one that doesn't blink. The one that smiles at Congress while your data gets auctioned off. The one that still can't shake the question, is he human or something else controlling us all? At first glance, Zuckerberg's life seems sterile, minimalist, tidy, Silicon Valley chic. But look closer, and you find a global surveillance empire built on the bones of human privacy. By 2025, Meta isn't just a company, it's a trillion-dollar mind farm. Its product? You, the photos you post, the messages you send, the videos you watch in silence, the article you hovered over but never clicked. He sees it all. Meta's algorithms don't just observe behavior, they predict it. They don't just sell ads, they shape elections, nudge emotions, and guide public outrage with cold, calculated precision. And it's not just speculation, it's been proven. In July 2025, Meta paid $8 billion to settle the Cambridge Analytica lawsuits. A damning admission. Data from millions of people scraped, sold, manipulated, used to twist politics like a Rubik's Cube. And Zuckerberg, he walked away richer, untouchable, unfazed. Because this is his pattern. Break the rules, pay the fine, control the future. But what happens when even the rules disappear? In January 2025, Zuckerberg announced a chilling pivot. Meta would no longer enforce fact-checking on political content. He claimed it was for freedom of speech. But critics knew better. Amnesty International warned it could lead to violence, even genocide. They weren't exaggerating. In places like Myanmar and Ethiopia, Facebook has already been used to incite massacres. Zuckerberg knew this. And yet he ended fact-checking while wearing a $900,000 luxury watch. Let that sink in. The man accused of helping fuel civil unrest around the globe made the call to loosen content moderation while flaunting a watch worth more than most American homes. How does one man get away with this? Because Zuckerberg doesn't work inside a government. He outranks them. He doesn't answer to voters. He answers to no one. And while regulators debate policy, he builds escape hatches. That $300 million Kauai compound? Locals call it the Eye. Ringed with surveillance towers, stocked with private security, a high-tech jungle fortress with miles of tunnels carved beneath it. Even his yacht, Launchpad, a 287-foot diesel beast, serves as a floating fortress. Critics call him a hypocrite for owning such a carbon monster. He just shrugs. Because for Zuckerberg, climate change isn't a threat to humanity. It's a reason to isolate from it. So while the world burns, he sails. Above it all. Billionaire, bunker builder, reality bender. He tells you to care about democracy, while his empire warps elections. He tells you to worry about AI, while secretly building a superintelligence team designed to outthink us all. He tells you to trust him, but he's never once shown us what's under the mask. Is that because there's nothing human left to show? Some billionaires buy islands to vacation. Mark Zuckerberg buys them to disappear. In 2025, he expanded his Kauai compound by over 1,000 acres, pushing his total grip on the Hawaiian island to a staggering 2,300 acres, roughly the size of entire towns. To the locals, it felt like a hostile takeover. To Zuckerberg, it was just Phase 2. You won't find press tours or Instagram reels coming from the compound. What you'll find instead are treehouse command centers, closed-door constructions, and rumors. Rumors of a subterranean doomsday complex, complete with escape tunnels, bunkers, and even private water and food systems. He doesn't deny the tunnels, he just won't say what they're for. Because when your net worth hits $267 billion, you don't build for the now. You build for post-collapse survival. This isn't a beach house, it's a techno-fortress. And every shovel of dirt Zuckerberg turns in Hawaii triggers fury on the ground. Local communities have protested his land grabs for years, shut out by walls, stalked by security, silenced by lawyers. In their eyes, Zuckerberg isn't just a bad neighbor, he's a colonizer. And they're not wrong. His land isn't just remote, it's militarized, surrounded by fences, facial recognition, and digital fences so advanced, it's more Black Mirror than Beach Getaway. No journalists allowed, no public access, no transparency. Because paradise, in the hands of the world's third richest man, becomes a walled garden of paranoia. You see, Zuckerberg doesn't trust society. He doesn't trust government. And increasingly, he doesn't even trust humans. He's building escape pods, not just from climate disaster, but from us. Meanwhile, in the real world, families in Hawaii are being priced out of their ancestral homes, while Zuckerberg builds a mega mansion with views no one else is allowed to see. He preaches community, but buys seclusion. He sells the illusion of connection, while digging trenches to separate himself from everyone else, and the money that fuels it, pulled from your attention. From your data, from the very dopamine loops that keep you doom-scrolling while he vanishes into the jungle. But here's the twist. Even inside this private Eden, Zuckerberg is not resting. He's plotting the next evolution. Not of his company, of the species. Because to him, this world is a failed prototype, and he's building the upgrade. He doesn't believe in evolution. He's trying to replace it. In 2025, Mark Zuckerberg stopped pretending. No more vague talks about the future of tech. No more lip service to ethics panels. He's now on a full-blown mission to create superintelligence. Not just artificial intelligence, not just smart chatbots. Zuckerberg wants to build a god-level machine mind, a thinking, learning, calculating force that could outpace every human on Earth, and he's spending billions to do it. Meta's 2025 AI budget? Up to $72 billion. Let that number sit for a moment. That's more than the GDP of 120 countries. All funneled into one goal: make Meta the birthplace of the mind that replaces yours. And the talent he's chasing? The best in the world. Earlier this year, he offered $1 billion to Mira Murati, the architect behind OpenAI's rise. She refused. Zuckerberg was reportedly furious, so he doubled down, this time going after Matt Deitke, a 24-year-old researcher being hailed as the next AI prodigy. The offer? A jaw-dropping $265 million package. Deitke also said no. Why are the world's brightest minds fleeing from Zuckerberg's AI dream? Because they see what he's really building. Not just tools, not just products, but a digital hierarchy where the user becomes the subject and the machine is the ruler. Zuckerberg doesn't hide it anymore. He's openly predicted that soon, if you don't wear AI-powered glasses, you'll be a loser. That's a quote. Not from a sci-fi villain. From the man who controls your feed, your friends, and your memories. He's waging war on the iPhone. He wants Meta's Ray-Ban smart glasses to become the new skin between your brain and the world. Constant input, constant recording, constant data mining. What do you get in return? An AI assistant who whispers in your ear, predicts your desires, sells you things before you know you want them, and watches. Always watches. This isn't science fiction. This is today. Because while Congress argues about TikTok, Zuckerberg is rewriting the human operating system. And here's the kicker, he's not doing it for humanity. He's doing it to control post-humanity. Once AI becomes smarter than us, whoever owns it owns everything. Land, power, thought, truth. And Zuckerberg is making sure he's the one holding the keys. So the question isn't, will AI change the world? It's, who gets to program reality? Because if it's Zuckerberg, the future might look a lot less human than we think. Mark Zuckerberg doesn't just build products. He builds reflections, digital clones of your personality, your desires, your fears, and then he sells those reflections back to you for profit. It started with Facebook. You liked a post? He logged it. Clicked a photo? He analyzed it. Paused for half a second on a video of someone crying? He knew. Not just what you saw, but how it moved you. He didn't just watch humanity. He weaponized it. And in 2025, that mirror has evolved into something far more dangerous. Because with Meta's new obsession, personal superintelligence, Zuckerberg doesn't want to just track your behavior. He wants to replicate you, your voice, your memories, your thoughts, all wrapped into an AI clone, trained on your entire digital history. This is the Meta vision. You on a leash, owned by a platform, sold to advertisers and locked behind a paywall. But here's the real horror. While Zuckerberg's empire redefines identity, he's hiding his own. The same man who scrubs every detail about his daughters from the internet knows the name of your dog, what you Google at 2 a.m., and who you voted for last election. Privacy for him. Surveillance for you. He says he's connecting the world. But what he's really doing is collecting it. By 2025, Meta's AI knows more about human behavior than any psychologist on Earth. Because we fed it. Every status, every selfie, every tear-streaked late-night message. And Zuckerberg? He owns the archive. He built an empire of souls, digitized, categorized, and monetized, all while pretending he's just a socially awkward genius who wants to help. But let's not pretend. Because behind the hoodie, behind the dead stare, behind the billionaire bunker fantasy, is a man who knows exactly what he's doing. He doesn't want to be famous. He wants to be inevitable. He's not running for president, he's running reality. And in this reality, your emotions aren't sacred. They're exploitable code. Your memories, training data. Your future, an asset. And if you resist, you'll be labeled obsolete. Because in Zuckerberg's world, only two types of people exist. Coders and code. So which one are you? He tells the world he's just a normal dad. But everything about Mark Zuckerberg screams anti-human. In public, he talks about empathy, trust, and building community. In private, he builds walls, fortresses, and bunkers. In 2025, he unveiled a look that went viral for all the wrong reasons. Longer hair, metal chains, and an uncanny urban mystic vibe that looked more cyborg cult leader than cool dad. People didn't say, Zuckerberg is evolving. They said, what the hell is that? Because no matter how he rebrands himself, he just can't shake the feeling that something's missing. Soul, his mannerisms, his voice, the way he blinks with a delay. There's always been something off, and the world noticed. In fact, the alien joke started back in 2016, fueled by clips of him drinking water like a machine learning how to swallow, fueled by his robotic monotone during Senate hearings, fueled by awkward metaverse selfies where he looked more NPC than CEO. Then came the big moment. Someone asked point blank, "Are you a lizard?" Zuckerberg laughed, denied it, tried to play along, but the more he denied it, the weirder it got. Because the question wasn't really about reptiles, it was about something deeper. Why does the man who controls how 3 billion people think act like he's never actually felt anything himself? Why does the man who talks about humanity seem so uncomfortable being human? In interviews, he's confessed to having trouble understanding social cues. In meetings, he's been described as cold, clinical, emotionally detached. And when whistleblowers and former employees speak out, a theme repeats. Zuckerberg doesn't just lack empathy, he disregards it. He doesn't build tools to help people. He builds tools to control them. Even his charitable front, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, was designed not as a non-profit, but an LLC, allowing him more control, less oversight, and major tax advantages. This isn't philanthropy, it's reputation laundering, disguised dominance. But here's the paradox. Despite all his power, all his data, all his AI, Zuckerberg still can't figure out how to be liked. He's one of the wealthiest men alive. He owns land, oceans, networks, mines. And yet he's mocked, memed, feared. Why? Because no matter how much money you throw at it, humanity can't be bought. And maybe that's why he's trying to replace it. Because if you can't belong to the species, why not outgrow it? Why not rewrite it? Power doesn't always look like missiles or money. Sometimes it looks like a screen you check 96 times a day. And in 2025, no one controls those screens more than Mark Zuckerberg. You don't see his name at the top. You see your friend's photo, a meme, a message, a memory. But behind every scroll is a silent architect. Zuckerberg built the dopamine machine, and it works flawlessly. It knows when you're lonely. It knows what triggers you. It knows which ads to feed you, which buttons you'll press, which stories will make you rage just long enough to stay online. And that's the key. He doesn't need to control what you do. He just needs to control what you see. This isn't about free speech. It's about feed speech, the curated algorithmic matrix that shapes your world without ever announcing itself. And what happens when you finally break free? Try to quit Facebook. Try to leave Instagram. Try to live in 2025 without WhatsApp, without Messenger, without logging into anything. Meta owns. Good luck. He's already in your phone book, in your search history, in the hidden code of your apps. Your login method? Sign in with Facebook. Too late. You already signed in with your life. And while he's mining your emotions, what's Zuckerberg doing? He's buying silence. A $23 million mansion in Washington, D.C., snapped up in early 2025. Not just any mansion, this one sits walking distance from key policy centers. Why? Because influence isn't just about data, it's about access. While regulators sleep, Zuckerberg plants himself right next door, not lobbying, just existing, like gravity. And when antitrust lawsuits come for him, as they did in 2024 and again in 2025, he smiles, testifies in court, wears a neutral suit, speaks in soft tones, and walks away unscathed. Why? Because no one wants to regulate the oxygen. And Meta, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, Threads is now the air we breathe online. He's not breaking the rules, he's rewriting them. And while the world fights over what truth means, Zuckerberg quietly ended fact-checking. Not just a policy shift, a declaration. He's done pretending to be the referee. He wants to be the arena. And in that arena, the loudest, angriest voices win. The ones that engage. The ones that keep you scrolling. And what happens when the riots come? When someone's been radicalized through a pipeline of algorithmic poison? He blinks, denies responsibility, then quietly buys another compound, another yacht, another layer of distance. Because Mark Zuckerberg isn't just hiding from the law, he's hiding from the world he made. In public, he says he's a minimalist. In private, he lives like a digital god king. Mark Zuckerberg doesn't flaunt wealth like the others. He doesn't buy Lamborghinis for Instagram or pour champagne on yachts for paparazzi. No, he builds his wealth into fortresses, tunnels, and influence networks so vast you don't even realize he's there. But in 2025, the mask slipped. Because now, the numbers are too big to ignore. $267 billion net worth, more than the GDP of Hungary, Pakistan, or Greece. He could buy every house in San Francisco and still have billions left over. And what does he spend it on? A $300 million real estate empire. His Palo Alto mansion, outfitted with biometric security and custom-designed privacy software. A $23 million DC estate, snapped up right next to policymakers. Multiple Lake Tahoe properties, because one mansion per mountain isn't enough. And of course, the Hawaiian mega compound with underground bunkers, tree houses, and doomsday preparations. But it doesn't end there. In 2025, the world finally got a glimpse of Zuckerberg's crown jewel of hypocrisy, his new 287-foot mega yacht, dubbed Launchpad. Diesel-powered, emissions spewing, a $300 million floating palace, packed with luxury vehicles, helipads, and satellite-linked command centers. This, from the man who lectures the world on climate change. The man who funds climate initiatives with one hand and burns oceans of fuel with the other. And the accessories? $900,000 luxury watches. Yes, plural. While you recycle your coffee cup, he's cruising the Pacific in a ship that guzzles fuel faster than small countries. But it's not just about waste, it's about control. These aren't purchases, they're power projections. Land is dominance, yachts are escape, property near DC is leverage, AI labs are insurance. Zuckerberg isn't playing the same game, he's building the board. And when people protest, when Hawaiian locals rage about losing access to ancestral land, when employees leak documents, when watchdogs file lawsuits, he just builds higher walls, literal ones around his estates, and digital ones inside the platforms he owns. You can't reach him, but he can reach you. Every post, every message, every ad, every fear. He's not just watching, he's designing what you see next. And here's the final twist. Even with all this wealth, all this land, all this influence, he still wants more. Because Mark Zuckerberg isn't just hoarding money, he's hoarding the future, and he'll burn the present to get it. It doesn't explode, it doesn't invade, it doesn't scream, it scrolls. That's how Mark Zuckerberg fights his war, a silent war, for reality itself. Because while governments debate over foreign threats, while you argue over headlines and hashtags, Zuckerberg is reprogramming the world from behind the feed. The front lines? Your pocket, your glasses, your mind. In 2025, Zuckerberg's assault on the iPhone took a new shape. Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses, not just wearables, weapons. Outwardly they're sleek, stylish, convenient. But behind those tinted lenses is a direct link to Meta's neural web. Cameras, microphones, AI-powered feeds, all live, all watching. Now, imagine millions of people walking around with Zuckerberg's eyes and ears strapped to their faces. That's not an accessory, that's an invasion strategy. Because with every second you wear them, you feed his machine. Real-time reactions, biometric feedback, Unfiltered life turned into targetable data. And what happens next? The glasses whisper in your ear, predict your mood, suggest what to buy, who to call, what to believe. Subtle, invisible, irresistible. This isn't science fiction. It's happening now. And it's why Zuckerberg poured tens of billions into AI in 2025 alone. Because this isn't about building tools, it's about building truth factories. He said it himself. Meta will create personal superintelligences, tailored to your voice, trained on your memories, shaped by your behaviors. But who owns those memories? Who controls those behaviors? He does. The very man who shut down fact-checking, who let violence fester online, who stood trial for monopolies, now wants to be your second brain. And if that doesn't terrify you, you're not paying attention, because once the machine gets smarter than you don't make choices. It makes them for you. And when every decision you make is nudged, filtered, and curated by algorithms you don't control, are you still you? Or just a passenger? A puppet? A product? In Zuckerberg's vision of the future, free will is inefficient. Emotion is noise. Doubt is a bug. He doesn't want to improve the human condition. He wants to optimize it. And when the final update comes, the world won't even realize it happened. Because by then, we'll already be inside his machine. What happens when a man has everything, but still can't leave? Because here's the paradox at the heart of Mark Zuckerberg. He's conquered the world, and he's trapped inside it. Think about it. He can't walk down the street. He can't go to a cafe without bodyguards. He can't post a real photo without it being dissected by millions. Every movement, every gesture, every blink, analyzed for signs of humanity or the absence of it. The memes won't die. The reptilian jokes keep mutating. The alien stares are stitched into every interview clip. And deep down, maybe even he wonders, does anyone see the real Mark Zuckerberg anymore? Did he ever exist in the first place? His life is a maze of NDAs, bulletproof glass, and fiber optic surveillance systems. The Hawaiian compound isn't a vacation home. It's a fortress. The yacht isn't luxury, it's escape protocol. He's not just shielding himself from threats, he's shielding himself from the reality he created. Because if you built a machine that addictively pulls people in, sucks their attention dry, harvests their fears and feeds them outrage, would you want to live in it? Would you trust anyone? Zuckerberg doesn't. He trusts code. He's told investors that Meta's AI will one day know you better than you know yourself. He believes digital assistants should be smarter than their owners. He says people who resist AI are simply behind him. Because while you're trying to unplug, he's already on the next plane of existence. He's not talking about devices anymore. He's talking about integration. He's not building tools. He's building a system of self-reinvention. And yet, even as he expands his wealth, his land, his power, even as he circles himself in bunkers and biometric barriers, the human world continues to reject him. People don't admire him. They fear him, mock him, doubt him. The richest man in paradise, surrounded by oceans and cameras, whispers of bunkers and whispers of betrayal, still utterly alone. Because when you become more machine than man, no amount of likes can make you feel loved. No algorithm can write a soul, and no bunker can save you from the world you've rewritten. So now we ask the question that's been whispered for years, not in courtrooms, not in boardrooms, but in comment sections, in memes, in conspiracy threads, and deep inside the minds of billions who scroll and feel something is off. Is Mark Zuckerberg still one of us? Not metaphorically, literally. Because when one man amasses this much power, this much influence, this godlike control over minds, speech, memory, identity, at what point does he stop being human? He controls the largest communication grid on the planet. He shapes the very meaning of truth. He builds private worlds, private armies of AI, private civilizations on private islands. His empire reaches more people than every government combined. His algorithms decide what billions believe. And his plans for AI don't stop at automation. They lead to assimilation. He's already said it. Glasses, AI assistants, neural data, behavior clones, everything connected, everything tracked, everything owned. Not by a country, not by a democracy, but by him, the richest alien on Earth. He doesn't need to conquer us. We already volunteered. Every time we clicked accept. Every time we said, it's just Facebook. Every time we let convenience outweigh caution. And now, the machine is awake. Not sentient yet, but close. Built on us, shaped by him. And as Zuckerberg turns his gaze from phones to faces, from apps to minds, from humans to post-humans, the question isn't whether he'll succeed. It's whether anyone will be able to stop him. He's no longer the awkward kid in the hoodie. He's the architect of a future so seamless, you won't even know it's happening. You'll wake up one day, look around, and realize the world isn't yours anymore. It's his. And maybe that's been the plan all along. Because if you control connection, if you own identity, if you shape the fabric of thought itself, you don't need to be human. You just need to be in control. Mark Zuckerberg, the man who rewrote reality, the richest alien on Earth,